didn't ask for the spotlight, he inherited it. When the Browns made him the starter, it came on the heels of owner Jimmy Haslam allegedly pressuring Kevin Stefanski to bench Dillon Gabriel, a quarterback who'd recovered and remained game-ready. What was painted as a football decision quickly unraveled as a business calculation. Gabriel was steady, but Sanders was box office. And suddenly the rookie with the famous last name was tasked with proving he wasn't just a marketing ploy.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
From the first snap, Sanders played like a man aware of every whisper but unbothered by the weight. His composure, sharp execution, and ability to command the huddle reshaped the story. The pressure may have been unfair, but the response was undeniable. And now, what began as a questionable substitution has sparked something bigger. A chance for Sanders to redefine the conversation, not as a symbol of ownership meddling, but as a legitimate answer under center. Jimmy Haslam just flipped the quarterback room in Cleveland upside down, and this time it wasn't about football. The moment news leaked that Haslam had pressured head coach Kevin Stefanski to bench Dillon Gabriel for Shedeur Sanders, it wasn't just a personnel shift. It was a spotlight on how the NFL really works behind closed doors. Business over ball. Optics over merit. Hype over performance. And the worst part? Everybody knows it. Dillon Gabriel wasn't injured. He'd cleared concussion protocol. He was ready. Not perfect but solid. He was doing exactly what the Browns had asked of him: play steady, protect the ball, keep the offense moving. And by all accounts he was doing that adequately. Match. But adequate doesn't sell tickets. It doesn't trend on social media. It doesn't fill the lower bowl or drive up merchandise. So when Gabriel was suddenly benched and Shedeur Sanders, rookie headline magnet, and the most buzzed-about name of the draft, was announced as the new starter, the reasoning became crystal clear. This wasn't football logic. It was marketing strategy. Shedeur Sanders didn't outplay Gabriel in an open competition. He didn't take over due to injury. He got fast-tracked into the starting job because the Browns needed a storyline, and his name delivered one. And that decision didn't come from the coaching staff. It came from the owner's office. Jimmy Haslam, according to insiders, leaned on Stefanski to make the switch. Not based on film. Not based on results. But based on ticket sales. Based on buzz. Based on how Shedeur would look as the face of the franchise, regardless of whether he'd earned it yet. That's the kind of move that cuts deeper than a bad loss. Because when players see that their hard work, discipline, and performance can be overruled by business interests, what does that do to trust? To culture? To the idea that the best man plays no matter what? It shatters it. And no matter how professional everyone tries to be on the surface, this decision has already sent shockwaves through the locker room. Veterans don't miss things like this. They know when a change is football-driven and when it's not. They know Stefanski didn't wake up one day and decide to yank his starting quarterback. They know Shedeur was elevated because of external pressure. And they also know that if it can happen to Gabriel, it can happen to anyone. Shedeur Sanders now walks into the huddle with the weight of an entire media circus riding on his shoulders. He's not just playing for wins. He's playing to justify a move that undercut the quarterback room, put Stefanski in a box, and shook the trust inside the building. To his credit, Shedeur handled his first start well. He made smart throws. He didn't collapse under pressure. He looked composed. That's huge for a rookie thrown into the storm. But even that performance doesn't quiet the controversy. Because no matter how good he plays, the story doesn't go away. The way it happened is already baked into the narrative. The push from ownership. The timing. The media hype. The ticket slump. That all lives next to every completion he throws. And if he struggles, it gets louder. Every bad read will get framed as a reason why Gabriel should have stayed in. Every interception becomes a referendum on Haslam's interference. Every loss gets pinned not just on the quarterback, but on the decision to make him the quarterback for business reasons. That's a brutal environment for any player, especially a rookie. And Gabriel? He's still showing up. Still in the building. Still supporting the team. But how do you stay locked in when you were benched not because you failed, but because you weren't flashy enough? He worked through injury the right way. He returned on time. He stayed prepared. He did everything a coach would want from a developing quarterback. And he still got pulled. That kind of setback can alter a career. Because now Gabriel is no longer the guy. He's the guy who got replaced by hype. Not because he couldn't play, but because he didn't bring the attention the front office wanted. And that's a label that doesn't go away easily. And what about Stefanski? He's now the head coach of a team where everyone knows his decisions are being overridden, where players are questioning whether the next depth chart change will be based on play or profitability. That's not a coaching situation, it's damage control. He has to manage two young quarterbacks, one trying to reclaim a spot he didn't lose, and another trying to prove he deserves one he didn't fully earn. He has to keep a locker room calm when every player is watching how the organization handles this situation. And if things go sideways, if the Browns start losing or if Shedeur falters, it's Stefanski who will take the heat publicly, even if the decision wasn't his. Because that's the power dynamic now. Haslam made the call. Stefanski wears the fallout. And for all the talk about team culture, meritocracy, and player development, this situation exposed the uncomfortable truth. When business interests enter the football side of the building, the locker room always pays the price. It doesn't matter that Shedeur is talented. It doesn't matter that he handled the start well. What matters is the process was flawed. The trust was broken. The culture was undercut. And now the Browns are walking a tightrope. If Sanders keeps winning and plays lights out, the narrative could shift. People might start saying Haslam made a bold move that paid off. That the risk was worth the reward. But that outcome isn't guaranteed. If the Browns stumble, the entire foundation gets called into question. The coaching credibility. The ownership priorities. The future of the quarterback room. It's already fragile. And while the front office might be banking on Shedeur's upside to stabilize the chaos, the damage to team trust might already be done. This wasn't just about a starter getting benched. It was about the Browns showing their hand, and that hand had nothing to do with football. So where does it go from here? Does Shedeur silence the critics and lead this team into a new era? Does Gabriel ever get a real shot to prove himself again? Can Stefanski maintain authority in a room that now knows it isn't his alone to lead? And can the Browns win enough to bury the business-first stink that now surrounds this decision? What do you think? Was Haslam justified in stepping in, or did he wreck the culture for a PR spike? Should Gabriel still be the starter, or is Shedeur really that guy? Let us know in the comments, like if you're as stunned as we are by the owner override, and share with someone who's been following this saga unfold in real time. Subscribe for more deep dives into sports chaos, celebrity meltdowns, and every moment where money, power, and ego collide with performance. Because in stories like this, the real drama isn't always on the field. Let's keep going because this story isn't cooling off, it's getting messier by the minute. What Jimmy Haslam did isn't just a PR stunt that got out of hand. It's a full-on case study in how not to manage a franchise in the NFL. And now, every person tied to the Cleveland Browns is stuck living in the fallout. Let's start with what's at the core of this entire controversy: power. When the owner of an NFL team steps in and overrules his coaching staff to make a starting quarterback decision, not because of injury, not because of poor performance, but because ticket sales are flat and media engagement is low, you've officially crossed into dangerous territory. That's not a football operation. That's a marketing campaign dressed in cleats. Dillon Gabriel never stood a chance. The second he got cleared from concussion protocol, it should have been a moment for the team to stabilize, to get their guy back, and to keep building. But the second Shedeur Sanders walked in with his high-profile name, national attention, and fanbase that stretches from Instagram to ESPN, that plan went out the window. Not because Sanders isn't good, he is. Not because he's not prepared, he clearly was. But because he represents something bigger to the franchise: market value, visibility, relevance. And that is exactly the problem. This wasn't a quarterback battle. It was a business decision. A boardroom power move disguised as a depth chart update. And for a team like the Browns, who have spent years trying to rebuild credibility and earn the respect of the league, it instantly reset the culture back to zero. Gabriel, by all accounts, did everything right. He was playing well enough, especially for someone early in his NFL career. He was cleared. He was ready. He was professional. But he got replaced because the front office wanted buzz. That's it. Not football logic. Not scheme fit. Hype. That's a crushing message to send to your locker room. It tells every player on that roster that performance alone doesn't protect your spot. That you can do everything right and still be sacrificed for a headline. And that the real power doesn't sit in the film room, it sits in the luxury box upstairs. And here's what no one wants to say out loud: players remember these moments. They may keep it professional. They may not go public. But they talk. They talk in position groups, inside huddles, on team flights, in group texts. They know this wasn't Stefanski's call. And if the head coach isn't calling the shots on who starts under center, what else is he not deciding? That's how trust erodes. Quietly but completely. And for Stefanski, this is career-altering. Coaches in the NFL live and die by their quarterbacks. They stake their reputation, their job security, their future on who they choose to put on the field. And here, that choice was taken from him. Now he's the face of a move he didn't own, tasked with coaching a quarterback he didn't select, while trying to keep another quarterback, who didn't deserve to be benched, engaged and ready. It's a no-win situation. If Shedeur Sanders plays well, Stefanski gets no credit. If Shedeur stumbles, Stefanski gets the blame. And don't think that pressure isn't hitting Shedeur too. He didn't ask for this media storm. But now it's his. He's the rookie expected to prove not only that he belongs, but that the owner's gamble was worth it. That's an impossible burden. Most rookies get time to develop, to make mistakes, to grow. Shedeur doesn't have that luxury now. Because every snap he takes isn't just about development, it's about validation. He could go 21 for 28 with 2 touchdowns, and someone will still say Gabriel would have done the same. He could make one bad throw, and it'll be framed as proof that this whole experiment was doomed from the start. It's not a normal rookie experience. It's a referendum. And the fact that Shedeur's handling it with composure? That says a lot about his maturity. But that doesn't mean it's fair. He's not just trying to lead an offense, he's trying to carry an entire narrative on his shoulders, one built by ownership, not earned in the trenches. And what happens if things go south? What if the Browns lose 3 straight? What if Sanders gets exposed by a tough defense? What if the offense stalls, the locker room splinters, and Gabriel's name starts getting whispered in media circles again? Who makes the next decision? Does Stefanski get to go back to Gabriel? Or does Haslam double down? That's the risk when ownership interferes. It doesn't just change one game plan. It changes the power structure. It undermines future decisions before they're even made. And if Haslam does step in again, that's it. You might as well rename the team the Cleveland Content Creators. Because at that point, everyone knows the football is secondary to the spectacle. This isn't just about 2 quarterbacks. It's about team identity. The Browns were trying to build something real. Something grounded in football, in work ethic, in player development. But this move? It makes everything feel transactional. Like the roster is a product inventory, and players are line items being shuffled based on what moves best in the media cycle. It's not sustainable. And the rest of the league sees it too. You think other free agents aren't watching this? You think agents aren't telling their clients to stay away from Cleveland if they want a fair shot? That stuff spreads fast. Players talk. Word gets out. And now this isn't just a Browns issue, it's a reputation issue. And let's not forget Gabriel. He's still showing up. Still taking scout team reps. Still staying in the building. But every minute he stays quiet and professional is another minute the organization takes for granted what they did to him. He had earned his role. He lost it to branding. That's not just a benching, that's a betrayal. And it's going to stick with him. Even if he gets another shot, the message has already been sent. That in this organization, business metrics might matter more than anything you do on the field. So where do we go from here? If Shedeur Sanders wins? The Browns ride the wave, try to bury the controversy, and hope no one remembers how messy the process was. If he struggles? This becomes the story that defines their season, and maybe their locker room for years to come. Because this isn't going away. Not when it involves ownership dictating starters. Not when it exposes how transactional the NFL can really be. And not when there's still a very capable quarterback standing on the sideline wondering what else he could have done. Because if there's one thing the Cleveland Browns know how to do, it's take a situation that should have been straightforward and turn it into a franchise-altering mess. And right now we're watching that unfold in real time. At this point, every throw Shedeur Sanders makes, every time he takes the field, it's no longer just about the next down. It's about the weight of expectations created not by his teammates or his coach, but by ownership's decision to sideline a healthy Dillon Gabriel. It's not just football, it's corporate spectacle. And that changes everything. When a rookie QB steps into a starting role because of performance, fans rally. The team gets behind him. There's a natural progression, a sense that it's earned. But when a rookie is pushed into the spotlight by an owner chasing media coverage and ticket spikes, the energy shifts. The locker room doesn't forget that. The fans don't ignore it. And now, every single thing Shedeur does is framed through that filter. Even if he lights it up, even if he throws 3 touchdowns and walks off the field with a win, there's a lingering, but was it the right way to do it? But what did it cost to make that happen? But what message does this send to the rest of the team? This whole thing started with one quiet conversation. Haslam leaning into Stefanski's office, voicing concerns about ticket sales and engagement. And now it's a full-blown quarterback crisis playing out in front of millions. You couldn't script this kind of tension if you tried. And the thing is, it didn't have to be like this. Let's go back. Gabriel wasn't dominating, but he was doing what the Browns needed. He'd recovered from a concussion. He was available. He wasn't losing games. He wasn't the problem. So why yank him? It wasn't about interceptions. It wasn't about blown coverages or missed throws. It was about buzz. About relevance. About getting Shedeur's name trending and turning the Browns into something more national. Not just a gritty AFC team, but a storyline. And now that move has turned into an anchor. Because what happens next is entirely unpredictable. If Shedeur stumbles, the Browns don't just lose games. They lose credibility. The locker room fractures. Stefanski's authority evaporates. And Haslam owns the fallout. Because once you put your thumb on the scale, you own the outcome. And the worst part? Even success won't clean this up. Why? Because of how it started. Even if Shedeur plays lights out, the narrative doesn't disappear. It evolves. From, was he ready? To, did he really earn it? To, is this how Cleveland is going to do things now? And that kind of reputation sticks. Especially when it's built on undermining a player like Gabriel, who by all accounts handled everything like a pro. Let's talk about him for a second, because Gabriel deserves more than just a footnote in this saga. This guy did everything right. Recovered from injury. Prepared. Didn't complain. Didn't stir the pot. Just waited for his shot to return and got blindsided by the business side of the sport. And now he's in the toughest spot an NFL player can be in. Quietly benched without a clear explanation, still expected to show up every day and act like it didn't happen. That's not just hard. It's humiliating. And let's be clear, Gabriel isn't the first player to be benched unfairly. It happens. But when it happens because of ownership interference, the sting hits different. You're not just battling for your job anymore, you're battling a narrative written by people who don't wear a headset or step on the field. You know what makes this worse? The silence. The Browns haven't given a straight answer. Stefanski won't throw Haslam under the bus. Haslam won't speak publicly about it. And so, Gabriel is left with no closure and no real explanation. Just that it wasn't his decision, and now he's on the sideline watching someone else get the reps. That silence speaks volumes. And the players? They notice. They're watching how the organization treats guys who stay professional. They're watching how decisions get made, and who actually makes them. And they're asking themselves the same question we all are. Is this football or a front office fantasy draft? Because if we're being honest, this whole thing feels like a marketing exec took over the depth chart. And if that's the direction the Browns are headed, good luck keeping the locker room bought in. You can't preach team first when players are getting benched for reasons that have nothing to do with what happens on the field. You want to shake up a team? Undermine a healthy starter. You want to make things worse? Do it behind the coach's back. And if you really want chaos, do all that while feeding the media a shiny new toy and pretending it's business as usual. Well, it's not. Because even though Shedeur might have the talent, the reality is this. He didn't take the job. It was given to him. And that distinction? It matters. It matters to the guys in that huddle. It matters to the QB room. It matters to everyone who's ever had to fight for a starting job and watch someone else skip the line for reasons that had nothing to do with game tape. Even if Shedeur succeeds, and he might, he's starting from a place that's already controversial. And if he fails, it's not just a rookie struggling. It's a full-blown indictment of the team's direction. And then what? Do the Browns admit they made a mistake? Do they reinstate Gabriel and pretend this never happened? Or do they keep leaning into the brand while the on-field product suffers? Because those are the choices now. That's the corner they backed themselves into. And Jimmy Haslam? He might think this is just a blip. Just some noise the media will forget once Sanders strings a few wins together. But anyone who knows football knows better. This is the kind of moment that lingers, that eats away at a team from the inside. And we're already seeing the cracks. Tension in the locker room. Uncertainty from the coaching staff. A fan base split down the middle. Some people want to believe in Shedeur. Others are furious about Gabriel's treatment. And both sides are right. Because this isn't how you build a winner. You don't create division to chase headlines. You don't sacrifice culture for clout. And you definitely don't strip a head coach of control and expect everything to hold together like nothing happened. But that's where the Browns are now. And the clock is ticking. Because the only thing worse than a team with quarterback drama is a team with quarterback drama and losses. If they win, the noise might fade. But if they lose, this entire storyline becomes the anchor that drags them down. Not because of talent. Not because of a lack of effort. But because ownership decided entertainment mattered more than process. 2. So here's the real question. Can the Browns recover? Can Shedeur Sanders live up to the hype while carrying the baggage of how he got the job? Can Dillon Gabriel keep showing up, keep staying ready even when the path forward feels rigged? Can Stefanski maintain credibility in a building where his authority is clearly being challenged? And most importantly, can this team find an identity that isn't controlled by marketing metrics and media optics? Only time will tell. Because what started as a quarterback decision has spiraled into something way bigger, a full-on identity crisis for the Cleveland Browns. Think about it. 4 years, this team has fought to shake off the stench of dysfunction. The constant turnovers. The coaching carousel. The draft day regrets. It's been a slow, gritty crawl toward respectability. And just when it seemed like they were finally stabilizing, bang. The owner steps in and lights a match. What's worse is that this isn't some behind-the-scenes rumor. It leaked. People know. Everyone from players to media to fans can see what happened. Dillon Gabriel didn't lose his job. He got pushed aside for the sake of spectacle. And in a league where locker room chemistry is everything, that move doesn't just cause a stir, it shatters trust. Ask any player what matters most in a team. They'll say fairness, clarity, a sense that if you do the work, you'll get your shot. That's what builds buy-in. That's how teams fight for each other. And the second you compromise that for ticket sales, you lose the room. Even if nobody says it out loud. Because here's the thing about NFL locker rooms, they don't erupt overnight. They simmer. Quiet resentment. Side conversations. Eyes that roll behind closed doors. Guys keep it professional but the energy shifts. And now, Stefanski has to lead a group that knows he's not the one calling all the shots. That's a dangerous place for a coach to be. You can't preach accountability if someone above you is making emotional, profit-driven calls. You can't say, the best player plays, if that's clearly not what just happened. And you can't expect guys like Gabriel to keep grinding without eventually questioning why they're doing it. Because when hard work gets sidelined for hype, people check out. They don't say it, but they do. And that's where performance dips. That's where the team fractures. Not because of one bad throw, but because the structure holding everything together starts to rot. And Shedeur? He's stuck in the middle of it. None of this is his fault. But now, every step he takes is scrutinized under a lens that has nothing to do with football. Even his best games will come with an asterisk for some fans. And that's not fair to him, but it's also the reality when you're thrown into a job before the locker room believes it's yours. So unless this team pulls it together fast and wins, this narrative won't just follow them. It'll define them. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should ownership ever influence who starts? Did the Browns just undo years of progress with one decision? And does Shedeur have a real shot at silencing all of this? Like, share, and subscribe for more real talk, real drama, and real consequences. Because in Cleveland, this isn't just about football anymore. It's about what happens when ego, pressure, and business blow right through the locker room door.